Hello, and you are listening to the Gotham Chronicle podcast powered by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out the Batman Universe for this and many other great Batman podcasts. I'm Josh, and here is some audio footage from my visit to the Tribeca TV Festival. I went over there in New York City to see the Gotham screening, and I got to walk the red carpet and interview Ben McKenzie, Robin Lord Taylor, and Erin Richards. The Erin Richards one was a little short because they were running low on time. I didn't get to talk to Jessica Lucas on the red carpet. She was also there, but I did talk to her off microphone, so you won't be hearing that after the show. So after you hear the red carpet screenings, you'll hear the Q&A that the cast did following the screening of Fear the Reaper. So hope you all enjoy that.
Speaking of which, so there's that moment in season 1, you get Fish Mooney's nightclub, and you're about to say the name, and then Jada Pinkett Smith, she comes in and she interrupts you, and I'm like, oh, he almost said Iceberg Lounge, and then a few episodes later, you open it as Oswald. So when we get to the end of season 3, oh, there we go. Oh no, don't put his head off. We need that. Yeah, just like season 1 when they were always putting you in peril, trying to cut your head off. And those meat grinders and stuff. But anyway, at the end of season 3, when you said the Iceberg Lounge, I was like, yes, finally, we're here. So
yeah. If you follow the Pigment at all, you know that is such a huge part of his character and his life and his base of operations. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be good.
Yeah, no, and we were watching the episode, my friends and I, a few days ago, and we were talking about, Penguin is just really he's telling Bruce, about this legend stuff. I said, you know what, I think he just thinks he's untouchable, when he's talking to the mayor and stuff. Is that accurate? Does he he just doesn't care, who knows what he's doing?
Yeah, right.
He controls the city.
He controls the city, and he also, especially this season, as you saw it, or you saw it the first episode.
You can tell me what's going on the rest of it. This isn't on, no one's gonna listen to it.
Yeah. So he starts the Pax Venita, which is he's controlling and licensing all of the crime in Gotham, and in a way he's succeeding. Crime is down, but again he's succeeding by allowing crime to exist, which my friend Jim Gordon will have a problem. There we go.
Jim, how could you do that to us?
I love my Jim.
Yeah, well, it took until season 3 for you and Bruce Wayne to actually have a scene together, are there any characters that you've been interacting with throughout the show that we're going to see you with more of now?
Let's see. Well, we have a new character coming in, Sophia Falcone, who's the daughter of John Falcone, played by the amazing Christopher Reeve, and she and I have some major stuff, especially at the top of the season, and so that's...
Well, you have a history with that Falcone family.
I know.
You kind of wrecked her dad's career. I mean, is she going to be happy with you?
Sorry, I don't know. Yeah, she'll have to deal with it.
Another Falcone for you to mess around with.
Excellent, awesome. Yeah, great, man.
Are you wrapped? Okay. Any villains that you'd like to see return from the past few seasons?
Oh my gosh, from the past.
I certainly would like to add it to this.
And again, we showed him in a season in the first episode, the Scarecrow. I've been saying for years, I love that villain, and it's truly terrifying. And also the actor who played on our show is so brilliant. So so I'm happy that he's back. And then I don't know, it's nice when anyone comes back.
Simply a blank page.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, and the more Enigma pots, we need some of that this season.
Oh, I'm sure you'll be satisfied.
Well, thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing what's happening in the Iceberg Lounge this year.
All right. Cheers.
Hey, good to see you again for year 4 of Gotham. So, what is Jim up to this year? Is he? I mean, it was a pretty rough year last year, with all that Lee stuff, shooting Mario, getting the virus, and being buried alive. I mean, I'm hope that they're going to give you some easier stuff this year.
Yeah. Hopefully, no more buried alive. We'll see.
Yeah. So, it took until season 3. We were campaigning for it, with the producers for them to give you an apartment, and you and I talked about that at Comic-Con last year. So, we have a little treat. This is from the way back in Gordon's life. This is where Gordon's supposed to live in the comics. He had his own mansion.
Oh my God.
He had his own butler, Finley. And see, there's Barbara Keene lighting up a cigar for Batman.
Oh my God.
But every night,
I've been such a big fan of Batman.
Every night, Gordon gets a full body massage massage from his son.
I know. I have seen this. This is very strange.
You've seen this?
I have seen this. Someone put this on Twitter somewhere.
I just remember
That might have been me.
Might have been you.
That might have been me. So
Things get a little strange in the origin story.
yeah, things get. I don't think we're going to see that in Gotham. You
And
know.
then
I
I'm
mean,
just
that part out.
a huge fan of Chris Nolan movies, huge fan of
So what are you looking forward to this year?
God, what am I looking forward to? We have some good new villains. I mean, you'll see in the episode tonight, Scarecrow. It's one of my favorite villains. Professor Pig's coming in, who I love, and Michael Cerverus is running the party. It's terrific.
I've kind of grown up with them.
And then we've got really interesting plot lines this year. You know, Jim and Penguin are at odds, but Jim seeks out an unlikely ally in Falcone, only to come back with a different Falcone.
I do and I don't. I think I feel lucky that I'm playing a character that maybe people don't know so well, so I can do my
Those strange bedfellows make for some strange
also, I
plot
found
lines
that
and some really dynamic portrayals and power plays and, of course, action and
we do. They're
sex.
so supportive, so that's...
Okay, so, and I gotta ask, you know, you and Sophia Falcone, is she, what's that relationship gonna be like? Because, you know, she's sister-in-law of your ex-fiance, you killed her brother, is she...
you know, you'd think she would care about that, but seemingly she's sort of alright with it. It's a very passionate relationship. I mean, at the end of the day, it's two people who are unbelievably motivated to... in Jim's case, to do good. In her case, to sort of seek power. But there's an element of Jim that is incredibly ambitious. And I think they bond over that in a way. Jim's awfully lonely and lost. So I think there's a real sort of dark, passionate side to their relationship.
Whatever that might be.
I mean, and 2 out of his last 3 girlfriends were all, you know, murderers too.
So there is that. But then again, everyone's a murderer.
Yeah, or Jim will make them into one. Valerie got out while she still could.
That's true.
Now, are there any villains that you'd like to see return?
Always welcome Jerome back. Jerome, our proto-Joker, is pretty great. Cameron does a great job with that, so that may or may not happen.
Maybe a few, but mostly
I would
very, very
love to
when I came in, I was super nervous.
I think I've got most of the ones that were... I was a big fan of Riddler, and Corey's obviously killing that, and Scarecrow, which we got at the beginning of the season, so I'm good.
Okay. Well, hey, looking forward to the rest of season 4.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the screening later today. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Always good to see you. Cheers.
Hi. You talked about the evolution of the character and all the phases Barbara's been in. So, as a treat, we have This is Barbara, as she first appeared in the 1950s.
Oh my god, are you kidding me? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, Jim, you've come home just in time. I've changed my plans. I'm driving up with Martha. You can drop me off at her house. Is that Martha Wayne?
No, it's her sister Martha.
Oh,
but that's not Jim. That's you have a sister. Maybe we'll see her this
and that's
season.
not Jim. What a spot. Oh,
yeah, he's Batman in disguise.
Wow, thank you. This is amazing.
And here's you sharing a cigar with Batman.
Oh, look, I look hot. Oh, yeah. Of course I'd share a cigar
and then you're,
with Batman.
watching a movie together with your husband right behind you.
That's amazing. Thank you. That's such a treat.
Yeah, looking forward to some more Babs this season. Can't wait to see.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Wonderful. So it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our panel, starting with our moderator from Entertainment Weekly, Samantha Highfill. Just realized I'm standing in the way of everyone getting to their seats. Executive producer Danny Cannon and cast members Robin Lord Taylor, Ben McKenzie, Jessica Lucas, and Erin Richards.
Hi.
It's nice and bright up here.
Yeah, wow.
Yes.
Well, Danny, I want to start things with you since you wrote that episode. I think, I mentioned something to you about how it feels like a little kind of mini movie to me, kind of like a mini horror movie in some ways. When you sat down to write it, what was kind of the idea, the inspiration for you?
Well, I think Gotham has always been one of the darker parts of the DC canon. So it's good to do the Halloween type episodes, and the Long Halloween was a comic novel that I read a few times, and once again before we started this season. So to get the flavour of Halloween and the flavour of that joyful like fun we have scaring ourselves, I just went with that.
I feel like you're going to get to continue to run with that with Scarecrow just as a villain.
He's out in the wind now. He's loose, yeah. So we love it when our villains are loose or in Arkham. Then we can do anything we want.
For the rest of you, I mean, you all just sat there and watched it. What was, like, your favorite part? What was your takeaway from that episode? Robin's hair.
That was mine. I love the Scarecrow thing. I've been saying for a while now. You know, we get asked a lot. You know, what villains would you like to come back, or what villains would you like to have in the show? And I always say, well, you know, in season 1 we established so many amazing villains, and you know, this was one of them. And I was so happy when we came back this year, knowing that he was going to be revisited. So yeah, it was the Scarecrow stuff.
It was an opportunity for our visual effects team, which just won an Emmy, to really show, you know, what they're made of. That was pretty amazing stuff, pretty scary.
No, yeah, what they do in the time that they have and the money that they have is it's insane. The talent and the support we feel from them.
Yeah.
Sure. It is. I feel like I remember sitting in a theater watching like the pilot with some of you all and like doing this. When you watch it now, does it feel like a different show? Like, can you really feel the evolution of this series?
I think in some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I mean, it's always been, I think, speaking just for myself, of course, like it's been grounded in the same tonal kind of structure, which really runs the gamut from some pretty serious, heavy violence and drama to some pretty kind of out there comedy. And in terms of sort of where we're, you know, how it's progressed, like sequentially, I guess that's its own other story. But in terms of the tone, I think that's always been relatively consistent. The characters get deeper and richer because they're given more space to, you know, in which to breathe, and more sort of episodes. The more episodes we accumulate, the more times they've come in contact. I mean, you see with their plot line how that's all predicated on a very deep, you know, history between Barbara and Tabitha and Selena and Ivy and, you know, and you, and, you know, I mean, it gets quite complex, and I think that's, you know, a testament to leaning into the serialization and really letting the characters grow, evolve.
And also to say, like, you know, versus where we were in season 1, the best thing, what I love a lot of stuff about the show, but like one of the greatest things, especially when we start a new season, is that we carry the momentum of the previous season forward. And so now, which to say about season 4, we have 3 previous years of momentum building behind this season. I think all of us feel that in terms of like just, you know, story and character. Like it's just, there's just so much energy there, which is so nice for a series, you know, on its 4th year. Yeah. You know, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I joked about Penguin's hair, but in all seriousness, I mean, I really do like the new look. Whose idea was this?
Oh, that was our brilliant Teresa Maris Alicio, head of the Gotham Hair Department.
Gotham Hair Department.
But no, it's, and this also, you know, and it's also Danny too, because like, you know, like he has a very specific idea for these characters, and you know, it's a great collaboration between all of us. And then then to say, like, you can watch any department on the show, and they are all telling the same story, but with whatever tools they're using. So, exactly, like the hair department is telling a story of this character, of all of our characters, through their hair. You know, it really is that detailed.
That's a good point. In the writer's room, you know, when you're trying to get across, when we plan out the season, or sometimes half a season, or we do it through characters, and we use adjectives to describe where we want their journeys to be. And you look at these adjectives, and then it's partly my job as to visualize that and say, well, how visually do I capture that adjective, you know? And that's fun, and hair is part of it, props are part of it,
yes.
Set design is part of it. I mean, the amount of sets myself and our production designer Richard Berg have drawn on Post-its, you know, just to get that idea across, or throw in each other pictures that we get off the internet, or oh God, you got to watch this movie. Watch it now, halfway through. Are you watching it? Do you like it? It's that idea of like, we just really hunger to get across as much visualization and much emotion in what we're doing, and we love our jobs.
Sure. I promise not all my questions are about hair, but I do want to talk about Barbara.
Talking of hair.
What do you feel like this symbolizes in her as she continues to evolve?
Well, I think everybody knows that when a woman goes through something pretty big in their life, like death, they change their hair.
That's true.
That's what she did. I say it's kind of symbolizing a rebirth for her. She has come back humbled a little bit from her experience in Series 3, where she sort of got a little ahead of herself and let the crazy kind of need for power overpower her judgment. And so when she's come back, I was wanting to do something a little ethereal, because I felt that, she had died, therefore, and she was resurrected, and I wanted it to be something that looked a little like otherworldly. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was leaning towards with the decision, and with, talking to Danny and talking to Teresa. That's kind of where we were going with it. And I think she has sort of a more sort of zen, kind of calm sereneness about her that will, develop again as the series goes on.
Sure. I am a little obsessed with the female stuff that's happening, and all of them potentially coming together. I would watch a spinoff of it, if you want to do it.
Sirens is a good spinoff.
There you go. But does Tabitha at this point, does she really trust her? We saw her test her in this episode. What is that dynamic like?
No, I don't think so. I think that's going to take some time to earn that trust back, coming from where we did last season. I think Tabitha is smart enough to know that you need allies in Gotham to survive. And so she's been put into a position where she doesn't really have much of a choice. And she also still has feelings for Barbara deep down, and that is playing into it as well. But I think she's going to have to prove herself at some point in order for them to be able to reconcile. So maybe we'll see that at some point this season.
We saw Ivy make a very big choice at the end of this episode. What is Penguin's reaction going to be? That was my first. I was like, he can't be happy about this.
I really like the dynamic between Ivy and Penguin, in the sense that she's innocent and light, and whereas it's comedically it's really fun, and then, but I think this is another lesson that I feel Penguin is going to learn eventually, is that, and he makes this mistake often, in that he underestimates his enemies, and he underestimated her. Obviously, we've seen, and there's something about the hubris of Oswald that just never really quite goes away, and I'm sure it's going to come around and bite him in the ass later this season. I don't know for sure, but that's probably a Danny question.
Yeah, his Achilles heel is his emotions.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Deep down, Oswald wants love. And he's willing to kill for it.
Good line.
He'll do whatever it takes to get love. Well, we also saw in this episode, we saw Jim's greatest fear, which just made me bummed out even. I feel like Gotham is just feeling bad for Jim.
Yeah, that's a real bummer.
What was your reaction? Were you surprised by his greatest fear? What was kind of your reaction?
I think it was brilliant writing on Danny's part, and the right in the room. That is his greatest fear, is that he's actually causing harm. He's actually, he prides himself on being a hero and bringing law and order and justice and all of this stuff and saving people. In fact, you could certainly make the argument, as Penguin does in the episode, that's funny. There's a lot of bodies that are, have Jim's fingerprints all over them. And so when he is faced with losing, the one that he loves the most, and Lee, and she's, in this fantasy killing herself because of the pain that Jim has caused her, it's certainly terrifying.
Sure. I feel like we have already talked about 8 different characters, which is a joke I feel like we always make. This is a huge cast. You all somehow find a way to service each of these characters on a weekly, if not regular basis. Is that Is that one of your greatest struggles in the writer's room?
Your greatest fear.
Yeah, is that it?
Yeah. No, not at all. No. It is. It's a great job. It's a great job because the characters are so vibrant. The actors playing them, always elevate the material. So it's only disappointing when you can't service them. But it's almost like your children. You find a way of getting them the attention that character deserves next week.
That's a great metaphor. I give my children an episode off every.
I'll get my coat. It's a great thing. And like I said, the boards at the beginning of the season before we start breaking stories, and I think some shows break stories before they talk about characters. Mm-hmm. This isn't one of those shows. This is one of those shows where we look at the trajectories of character and emotionally what those journeys are. Then you can always find the stories. You can always find the villains. You can always find a way. But what you can't do is replace the relationships that they all have with each other and how we keep moving those, that's the best part of the job.
Sure. What would be you all's fear? What would you see? I know mine, dead even. Your greatest fear?
Oh, you're asking us personally?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rob.
My greatest fear would be... What would it be?
Nuclear war.
It would be to survive all of my loved ones, I think. Yeah. That would be my thing.
I'm going to take this. That was great.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Mine's flying.
Flying?
Flying, I absolutely hate flying.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I'm like a white knuckler.
You were pretty good
all the way. I internalize it very well.
You're so good at that.
And I spend a lot of time on a plane as well. It's a fear of mine.
You actually had to face your greatest fear all the time.
I know, all of the time. It's awful.
Nice. Erin, greatest fear?
I don't really have,
Clowns?
Clowns, yeah. Well, I said nuclear war right now. That's a pretty big fear. At present. Trump. It's happening.
War.
My greatest fear is literally happening right now in the world.
Way to bum us out.
Sorry, guys. Clowns.
Thursday.
Clowns.
It's a good time.
You guys went big. I was going to go with, spiders.
Like death.
Somebody had to say it.
Yeah, death, that's really what's behind all of it.
Losing teeth.
Yeah.
I do want to touch on, at the end of this episode, we got to see a new Bruce get up costume, however you want to say it. What was the inspiration for kind of the look of that?
Have you seen Batman? No, it's tough. Listen, I mean, Jeff Johns at DC, he's great. He's great with us, but he's also leaning over us, going, "What else? We've got a big movie coming up with Ben Affleck." And we're big fans of it too, so we don't want to... But what we do want to do is start having this kid, put himself in harm's way, because it becomes an addiction. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. The look of it, where does it come from? 1,000 pictures and scouring magazines and going back. And in the writer's room talking about, what makes somebody agile, but at the same time protects them, and how it can evolve from that point onwards. So, it's tough going right back to the beginning when you know where you're going to end up. Mm-hmm. So we have to make that beginning a longer journey.
Sure. Well, and touching on Bruce's dynamic with Jim, I feel like Jim has very much so felt like a protector in a lot of ways for a lot of seasons. As Bruce is kind of coming into this role where he's protecting himself a little bit and doing a bit more of that, right. How does that affect their dynamic?
Well, it'll affect it tremendously. This season will have a sort of a drastic change in their relationship, which I think we're still sort of figuring out what the end point of the season is with that. But the sort of, to me, the easiest way to conceptualize the show in terms of why are we focused on Jim instead of Bruce is that when we start the show, Bruce is a child. Mm-hmm. And the city is falling apart, and it needs a savior, and the only one at the time who's available is a common man, is a Jim Gordon, who is actually a law and order man. And so in Jim's both successes and mainly his failures, Bruce sees what the city needs, which is actually someone who is, what's the word, extra legal or outside of the law. right? Someone who is actually a vigilante. Jim can't actually do that. He can't actually just go out and, kill people or fight them or, do whatever. So I think we're starting to see that, that sort of percolating kind of whatever you would call it, asymmetry or whatever, kind of come to light. That doesn't mean that Jim doesn't have a vital purpose to serve. And I do think there's something incredibly human in him, which grounds the show in a matureness and adultness and in a frailty, quite frankly. That at the end of the day, he isn't a billionaire and he can't sort of create a wonderful suit. He's just a man. And so I think that's kind of the sort of the essence of it to me.
Yeah. Looking kind of at the overall arcs of these characters over this 3 and now into season 4, has there been anything, both as a writer and as actors, that has surprised you guys along the way? Maybe a way you didn't expect your character to go.
Robin?
Yeah. I not that I was that it didn't make sense, but I was, a little surprised about the connection between Edward Nygma and Oswald from season 3. I mean, I'd known about it for a long time, but when it was announced, it was makes sense. Wasn't expecting it, but it's one of those things too where I love that because then I'm okay, so how do I make this make sense with, what I've been doing, and this was season 3, so the previous 2 seasons, it's how do I make this make sense for me? And, and that's that's such a great actor's challenge. And, the great thing about this show, from my perspective is that Danny and all of our writers are so incredibly approachable and there's room to talk and discover things together. And so, anyway, I'm praying. That was one of the things. I don't know.
Are you asking everyone?
I'm constantly surprised. I think when I joined, I did know that Tabitha was going to, at some point, mentor Selena, but I had no idea how they were going to get from point A to point B. So all of this amazing stuff with Erin in the middle, I wasn't expecting any of that. And I didn't know that they were going to introduce the Sirens and have her be a part of that either. And that's been so fun to play. But anytime you have 2 strong females, playing off one another, that was a gift that I wasn't expecting.
I've been constantly surprised, as I think probably have our writers, about the development of Barbara from where it came from where she came from. I don't know that this was ever the plan at the start. Danny, was this ever the plan at the start?
No, it kind of. Oh, well, not at the very start. Mm-hmm. Not at the very, very, very start.
No, I mean, I think that's the joy of the character of Barbara and the characters that aren't so well known to everybody, because we began with something and she was a thing that was going to be like a light for Jim, like a way for Jim maybe to be safe in Gotham, and then we quickly realized that is not exist. There is no safe place in Gotham. So she, began this incredible journey that I've had the absolute pleasure and fortune of playing, where she's just had this huge arc that has been so interesting, and I feel like she has so much potential, as in, she could end anywhere. She could go back to good, she could go bad, and that's, I think, the great thing about a character like Barbara, where we don't necessarily know the end of her. I mean, there's things that people want, babies, etc. But, the joy of what we get to do is, I think the fans would let us have leeway with her in that we could do anything, which is great.
Yeah. Well, Danny, you mentioned at the very beginning that wasn't, always necessarily the plan. How did Barbara's kind of trajectory evolve for you guys?
I was at dinner in New York with Bruno before we premiered the pilot, and it just we were talking about characters, and I said, Barbara would be a cracking bad person. And we just looked at each other, and there was that awkward silence of and it was great, because the thing about surrounding Jim Gordon with things that move all the time, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He can never sit down and move forward or take a step without something going wrong. And the idea of a fiance of his like taking the breakup and so badly that it
really bad.
Yeah. No, she's a little dramatic, but it just worked. We knew when we said it out loud that it would work.
Sure. Well, we talked about character evolutions. Ben, as a personal evolution, you wrote an episode this season. Yeah. What was that experience like for you?
It was terrific to be in the room, which I was able to be in for a few weeks, right as we were starting. I think we'd map out the first couple of episodes before I was able to be there, and then we were breaking story and conceptualizing the whole season still at that point. It was really, really great. And then just to go through the process, as actors, we're privy to a lot. We're obviously privy to production. We're there, and so we're able to watch directors and sort of, crib some notes and kind of, see if we have an inkling to do that. We can kind of observe that. But it's hard to observe writing because writing happens in a room by yourself often. Right. And but what part that doesn't is in the writer's room itself. That was really interesting. And then to go through the whole process, including all the notes, all the studio and network feedback, and most particularly the actors' feedback. That was what I was really excited about, was to sit there and sort of hear the words from this cast, and then, is it working? What can make it better? How can we fix this or change this or, soup that up? And then to watch them on set was just. There's a scene in episode 4, which is the one I wrote, where Robin and Corey are coming again, like in contact with each other after events, and it's just great. It's funny. It's moving. It's human, and it was 75% or more just the performances, and then there were some words. But it was really great to watch him work. It was really a treat.
Yeah. Danny, did you give Ben any advice before he embarked on that?
No. I mean, it's like when you're working with a cast as closely as we do, and we're friends too, so it's kind of like nothing felt weird. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think it would only feel weird if you didn't have any relationship with the people. No, I like it. I like the more they can be around the creative process, and not just their own creative process, the better. Because it helps us too. It's like having somebody, who understands you.
Well, and to give Danny credit, Danny's been doing this for, I don't even know, 30 years or so.
Hold on.
Pretty much 30 since film school.
I don't know.
But professionally.
I'm 35.
Anyway. Yeah, he's 35. He's 35 years old. Anyway, Danny's been involved since, shows like CSI, which were around for a little while. And there's this whole huge sort of legion of people that have worked under Danny, and they'll start as sort of, like assistant camera or something, and they'll work all the way up to, cameramen, directors of photography, directors, producers, Louis Melito, who directed this episode. Where's Louis?
Yeah, stand up, Louis.
Yeah, Louis.
Louis was my AD.
This episode.
And Louis was he's with his two of his beautiful daughters. He was my AD back on the CSI days. And it was pretty obvious, not only did we get along, but it was pretty obvious that the way he was thinking and the way he was watching and the way he was listening, that he was going to be doing this one day. And now there's nobody else I'd like to direct an episode of mine.
Mm-hmm. And so that speaks to the open door policy. That you don't get it for free. If you're not good, Danny won't keep you around for much. But if you're good and you're working hard and you want and you're keen to learn, then Danny and John Stevens, they're all it's a welcoming set for that sort of thing, and that's such a gift for us.
Sure. And you're also directing again this season.
Yeah.
Have you done that yet, or is that?
Yeah, Ben directed.
I directed last season.
You directed last season.
Well, yeah, I meant like this season.
Oh no, I get the same slot, so episode 16 again this year. I don't know what the script is yet, so we'll see.
You should write it.
It's a one-man show.
Yeah. What's that?
Written and directed.
It's a one-man Hamlet.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they don't let people write the ones that they direct. I honestly found writing my own dialogue harder than writing other people's dialogue.
Yeah.
Why?
Because
you're too close to it, maybe.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why.
Because there's nobody to complain to about it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. No, that's exactly right. I was like, well, this isn't great, but Robin will change that. That'll be fine. But when I write it, it has to be good, and it's not good, and you're like, oh man, that sucks. Can't say these words. Who am I going to complain to? What a mess.
Was there a character whose dialogue came easiest to you?
Harvey Bullock is the easiest. Yeah. Because Harvey Bullock can say anything. It doesn't matter. Yeah. He can say anything. He can take any position. He can defend, and that's a testament to Donal for sure. But he'll do anything. You want to make a joke about donuts, Harvey, Donal will sell it. You want to talk about, a deep, emotional, passionate speech about, losing your mother, Donal will sell it. He can do anything. Yeah.
But for Ben's fellow actors, what is the experience like of having a coworker write your lines or direct you?
It's fantastic because again, like he just said, I've had so many amazing scenes that have run the entire gamut with Ben, and he knows exactly what I do, and like when he's directing, there's just an immediate shorthand. Like there's all of that other like trying to explain things or whatever. Like it's a word, it's a look, it's a point. And that's fabulous. I love that.
Over directing sometimes makes people nervous. Like if you go on and on and on and on about the subtext and everything, they're looking at you like, I get it, I read it.
Yeah, especially if
now you're making me
it.
nervous. Am I not right for this? Right. I asked an actress once what was the best direction she ever got, and he said, "You look beautiful." She said I was amazing all day.
I loved working with you as a director, I have to say, because I found that your perspective was so spot on, and you would come in with something that I would not have thought of. I feel like when you're on a show for a long time, you sort of get into patterns and routines, and you're so used to doing the same thing over and over again. But you came in and you had all of these notes that were so creative and very specific, which I really appreciated.
Thanks.
And I really liked your passion, as well as everything
excited.
else. But that was so
great.
beautiful because obviously everyone else that comes in has the passion too, but they've done it a lot of times.
Exactly.
It was like your first time, and the joy that you brought every day. It was so wonderful.
No, I like the way that he directed in costume.
Totally.
And I was just thinking, I'm not going to wear a hoodie with oatmeal on it anymore. I'm going to wear a suit and have my hair done.
It's only when I was... Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, I want to make sure if we have any fan questions, I want to throw it out to you guys. I know we have mics roaming around. Here we go. Raised hand. Coming up behind you.
There you go, coming up.
Thanks so much for coming out. Really enjoyed the show.
Thank you.
What impresses me as well about the show is how physical your roles are. Do you guys have individual coaches, or do you work with stunt people? How do you rise to that occasion?
We have an amazing stunt team. Norm Douglas is our stunt coordinator. He's
Emmy Award nominated.
Twice this year.
Yeah.
Won it last year.
Incredible.
Yeah, won it last year. He's phenomenal. I have an amazing double, Turner, who does nothing. I do all of my
favorite. My favorite guy on set. Yeah.
What's that?
It's Turner. I just love him.
Yeah, he's really terrific. And yeah, I mean, I don't. In terms of training, I guess it's individual. I try to stay in shape.
Stay in shape. Yeah.
How do you do your stunts, Robin?
What?
How do you do your...
Clumsily. I've fallen so many times in those fucking shoes. Excuse my language.
Shoes are massive.
Oh, God. And the limp and the thing.
Speaking of, it is hard to do the stunts in heels.
Oh, yeah,
right.
absolutely.
I'm complaining.
You'd be surprised at how quickly it all comes together. We usually do 1 day of rehearsal, maybe the week before or something. But they're really great at adapting to your skill level, too. They're really open to you changing things up, or they'll come in with ideas. If you have an idea, they're happy to incorporate it. They make you feel strong and powerful, and you can actually kick ass, which I can't in real life. So
You do a very good job.
I fake it well.
It's Cameron who puts us to shame, isn't it?
That's true. Cameron, because she's a dancer, she picks up the choreography in 10 seconds, and she puts us to shame a little. That scene in the first episode of the season.
Yeah, she's very good.
Watching her do that on set was incredible.
Yeah.
I was quite lucky this year because, am I allowed to say about that, Danny?
What's that?
The stuff that I get to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I why not? So I get trained while I'm going through my kind of dead back to life period by Raish to be like a martial arts expert. So there's going to be all of that coming up, and that was really fun to do because I haven't really been able to. Like my fighting was very scrappy. I don't know if you remember that bit where I fought Morena.
That's right.
And we just
hair pulling.
It was, hair pulling, and it was really great. But this fighting is like actual kind of skilled, specific kind of precision fighting. So I really like doing stuff like that because I used to dance many moons ago, not as well as Cameron, but just having that kind of going back to do that kind of dedicated training I find really rewarding.
Is it on? Question for Danny or Erin or whoever wants to spill the beans on this one. There was talk in some interviews at the end of last season that Barbara, kind of like Butch, would be turning into a different character. Then over the summer they said, never mind, she's just going to be Barbara. Who was that character? Can we find out who it was?
I never say never on this show. I would definitely say I just think the transformation that she's gone through and the evil alliance she has with somebody can lead many different places. Whereas we know where Jessica's going, and but we're kind of obsessed right now. What happened was we were obsessed with this idea of the sirens and girl power and keeping them together and having them kick some ass for themselves. Mm-hmm. And we fell in love with that, and that's so we didn't steer away from it completely. It's on hot ice.
Any other questions? No.
I just want to say that I love you all, first of all.
Hey, I love you too.
But I just want to ask, will we see Jerome again?
You mean right around episode 12?
Yeah, he's directing. God, spoiler alerts.
Is that your answer?
Not the answer.
What the hell? It's in New York. We're we're in a good mood. Yes.
Yes. There we go.
Okay, this is great. This is one of the best episodes I've ever seen. I actually have a Batman one. I'm thinking of the '60s and all of that, and I know the whole. I'm waiting for you to get fat. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for you to get, become like a real penguin. It's like, when's that going to happen? I know a lot about the history. I know the premise when it first came out. This is a preamble, a precursor to like really about Jim and his whole story. I see this episode was amazing because I'm thinking of the comic and I'm very in tune to the whole history of the comic with Bob Kane and all that. How when Bruce got caught, this is the first time he's now kind of like a vigilante, and you're like, he's trying to kind of hide he's kind of Batman coming of age, and you're like, obviously they never find out in the real comic. But in the future, number one, I'd like to see the Joker come back because he's like a really important character. How far are you planning on going with Bruce? Because once he becomes Batman, he goes after everybody. He's the ultimate, going after you. And Barbara really wasn't in the comics so much. Yeah, I think you became married. It weren't in the real comic book.
We should get this guy to write.
Well, I know the story of Batman. I mean, just because I know the whole history.
He knows
of the
whole
comic.
history.
But ultimately, is Bruce? Because once Bruce becomes Batman, kind of everything's going to change. Is that the plan?
Yeah, well, we can't
is he always going to stay
can't
a kid?
actually become Batman. We can't.
Or we do a Batman series then.
Yeah, then you do Batman series. But it's been fabulous. When you guys, the writing is great, and I'm still waiting for you to get fat.
Okay.
We'll work on that.
About it tonight. Yeah right. More bagels.
I think we have time for like one or two more questions. Anybody? Oh, we got some hands. Oh, we got a mic.
My question is more or less along the lines of VFX. What were your challenges that you faced, and if you could just give like a brief explanation of just how your team works.
The VFX team. We try to help them as much as we can. in shooting, because we have to keep the amount of effects per show down, there's a budget that we can't go over. And that's why they've been so great to us, because sometimes they just throw it in there because they're passionate about the show, which I really appreciate, like the guys who do our music. The process basically is right from the beginning of conceptualizing the story, and we will talk to them and ask for a test. For example, we asked for a scarecrow test. And once you do that test, and it could be anything, it could be one of the visual effects team just filming himself. Once you see that test, then you let them go with it. I don't micromanage from that point onwards. So I micromanage the test, but then I know it's going to apply to the show. It's all about really talking to the directors, especially, and asking them to limit the amount of times they're going to rely on visual effects, because it's so easy to go, oh, they'll fix that. They'll fix that. They'll fix that. But it all came from having a helicopter shoot in New York, filming New York for New York, and then teaching visual effects what buildings to take out and what to put in to make it the Gotham that is timeless and ageless. And once we did that, then we had our shorthand, then we knew our tastes were the same, and it was easy to apply that. So, those guys are just terrific. I hope that helps.
Makes sense. Everybody, can we get a mic down here?
There's so much darkness in the show. And Jim Gordon's like the only one holding a candle in, a hurricane pretty much. Where, aside from humor, are there other characters that are going to help bolster that hopefulness? I mean, I like dark, but if you don't have the contrast, then you don't get the sharp edge. I'm assuming the sirens will take care of a lot of the some hope, even if it's on the flip side. But where is the hope coming from in all this darkness?
I think even amongst the darkness, characters can still seek redemption, seek love, seek happiness, even if it's of the twisted variety. But you're right, it's a dark show. It's a dark show. There's dark people.
Our show also does this brilliant thing, which I was saying earlier. It's like in life, sometimes the best intentions create the most disastrous, unforeseen results, and on the flip, sometimes the most depraved intentions can create harmony and beauty. And I think that's all. Like, the hope is buried, in there somewhere. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. And there's Lee Tompkins. There's always Lee Tompkins.
There's always.
Well, and Bruce and Alfred obviously have their lights, as well as Harvey and Jim for the most part. Although that relationship will be tested.
And I think what you're saying about the sirens, we're sort of coming together as a family unit, and we're fighting for something. It might not be, complete peace and love for all, but it's fighting for something. And I don't feel like we're particularly dark right now. I feel like we have some tiny torch that we're carrying.
I think we have one last question right here. Go for it.
Hi. Just want to say I love you guys, and Danny, you should bring back Harvey Dent. Just saying. My question is, since season 3 didn't have like a blooper reel, I just wanted to see what was like your favorite mess up on set, like funny stories or anything.
They're probably not broadcastable.
Well, didn't you make the season 1 blooper reel just us all going fuck?
Oh, saying fuck.
Sorry.
There's a lot of that. Yeah. Donald just makes it too much fun. It doesn't feel like a mess up. It actually improves the dialogue.
There will be a blooper reel.
Yeah. You know what? It's getting these shows done is almost a miracle. We get them done on time and on budget. Yes. You barely have time to look over your shoulder and sit. I mean, when people say, "Did you get it today?" Sometimes you go, "I don't know. Actually, I can't remember what I started with this morning." But so I think the day just goes so fast, and thankfully these guys are all so prepared and ready that we're very focused, and you know, I think we have a laugh offset, but there's no cameras there for that. Thank God. Thank God.
I've been filming everything, Danny, every conversation.
No. Well, then that would be a good blooper.
All right, I think we are out of time, but thank you guys so much for coming out.